Okay, so we are live.
Okay, welcome everyone back to Isaiah 13. It's been a little bit of a minute for me here. Happy to be back. Happy to be discussing Babylon and all that comes with that. Where do you guys want to start tonight? Rodolfo, you want to give us do you have any housekeeping ideas that you want to talk about, or anything about the platform?
No, first of all, I'm happy to have you back. Cameron, we joked last time we had no slides.
I'm
we were
sorry.
just reading, we were just reading plain text, which is very entertaining for everyone. But no, happy to have you, and we're gonna see a difference today. But more than anything, just always highlight the tool. We're making a couple of awesome updates. More are coming. And if you are using it, there is a feedback link in the dashboard. Give us some feedback, submit the form. And then, yeah, we have a lot of things coming in soon. So keep tuned. But if you haven't set up an account, it's 100% free. Go ahead and, yeah, and join. So that's it.
Okay. Let's see. So we're starting a new section, chapter 13. It's the bigger section of the structure from 13 to 23.
Yeah, 23.
What month did we start this last year, by the way? Was it March? April?
It was March, right? Oh, yeah, I believe so. March.
Okay.
Are you pointing out that we're only at 13?
I'm pointing out that I think this next chapter is going to be 2025 or 2026.
We're going to hit this block this year. Yes. That is the goal. Okay, so the biggest thing I feel like I could at least mention with these here overview, and you guys add to this, is that each of these chapters is kind of like an oracle or a burden, or it's directed specifically to a group of people, and each of these group of people basically like make up a conglomerate of a Babylon type category of peoples. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that there's a lot of judgment within these groups of people that's discussed in these chapters too. It's kind of like a bit of a bummer, but
yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, what's interesting about this, of course, is that we know it's Israel that's sort of on trial here, and yet the scenario, it's like the gravity of the scenario seems to pull all of these other wicked nations in as well, and the effect spreads. So yeah, I mean, everyone sort of plays a different role, and their judgment comes for a different reason. But that's sort of, in a sense, the gist of it. Oh, it looks like I'm blurring out.
Yeah, one thing that I will add to the context is, yeah, you have Babylon, and there is a lot of parallelism between Isaiah chapter 3, that the daughters of Zion, they have become a harlot. And Babylon is a harlot. She is the mother of all harlots. So, like Cameron says, that they have been adopted to this greater Babylon system. So Babylon here represents the current system, and then we're going to see that all of these different nations, they belong to that greater Babylon umbrella. And then, yeah, all of them, they represent types of, different aspects that Isaiah is highlighting, rather than a specific that superimpose these nations to a specific nation location. To me, and you guys can maybe correct me if you have a different opinion, what Isaiah is doing is highlighting the, I don't know, qualities or attributes of this group of people as a category that belong to this greater entity. So
yeah, I agree. I think defining a spiritual category of a person or a people is probably more meaningful than trying to be like, these are these people here in this place, and these are, like, instead of make it a little more of a broader definition than trying to be specific to.
I do have this graphic, Rachel. I don't know if I think you maybe saw it before. 1 second. And I did this, how these maybe there are different categories, right? And then the king of Assyria, which is a type of the end time beast. Although Babylon is different, we're gonna maybe cover some of that in the historical context of this chapter. But the beast here, he takes dominion over everything that is, we can say, Babylon or celestial category, and he goes, and all of them are at his reach for destruction. And then Isaiah's gonna use all of these nations of Babylon, Moab, Damascus, etc., Egypt, that some of them that always are a chance for repentance, but also Isaiah highlights the downfall, which for us is a template of what things we can improve, change, repent of. And then that's the way out that actually is a template that has been giving us. And anyway, yeah, that might be a way to look at it.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, so I guess the burden is to Babylon. Do you want to give us? You have some slides on the background and a little bit about Babylon.
Yeah. So maybe one thing very quickly here. The word we're gonna use is burden. Some translation they mention the word of Isaiah against Babylon, and there's the same word for all of them. The oracle of Isaiah, or oracle is the other word. Oracle, the prophecy of Isaiah about Moab, about Babylon, so forth. But the Hebrew word is burden, and it's masa in Hebrew, and literally means, yeah, it's a heavy burden that you carry. And the reason why that's this, they use that, the word that Isaiah is using, is because these type of prophecies, they were meant to be put pressure on the people. So it was a burden against the people that they are carrying right now. And in some sense, they will happen. So there is what is called prophetic perfect, that these prophecies will be fulfilled, but they're conditional according to how people will respond to it. So, and that's why Isaiah, and with Moab especially, he is very emotionally involved that these Moabites are not receiving the warning and so forth. So just as a quick context on the nature of the prophecies. Yeah. Well, let's cover some of these very quickly as background. Rachel, I think you're a better reader than me. Can you read that very quickly and we can talk about it?
I'll read it, though I'm not a better reader. Okay. The name is derived from Bavil or Bavilim, which, okay, this is Babylon, sorry, obviously, which in Akkadian meant gate of God or the gate of the gods. In Hebrew, it's Bavel, which means so it can mean confuse by mixing or because of mixing, or to mingle, to mix, by blending things in essence. Okay. So, that's good. So Balal, there you have it as violence.
That's another root. Yeah, Balal. Yeah, that's crossing boundaries.
Like that. That's good. Okay. So it's known as the political and economic and religious capital of the ancient world, a symbol of human pride, power, and self-sufficiency. And I think even people outside of biblical stuff know what Babylon probably represents. It's a pretty well-renowned word, right?
Yep.
I think it's pretty big, yeah.
And this goes back to 2000 BC, right? The first reference in the Bible is, and with the Tower of Babel. Babel is the same.
Yeah, I think it's Genesis 9
comes
or something,
from Babylon.
maybe?
Yeah, Nimrod. Yeah, the line of Shinar. So Shinar is Babylon in Zechariah chapter 5. You see, we've talked about this, the woman, there are two women who take then the Ark of the Covenant to Babylon. That represented when King Nebuchadnezzar came, and again they destroyed the temple and took some of the temple elements to Babylon and the people. It's huge empire. Historically, the Assyria comes first around 730 BC. Babylon plays a role 100 years later, around 500 and 620. That's when you see Nephi and Lehi live in Jerusalem, right? The Babylon were the ones who caused the destruction of Jerusalem. But the oracle of the destruction of Babylon happens around 590 BC by Cyrus, King Cyrus by Persia, and that's the Medes are going to be the ones who are at the end of this chapter, the entity of destruction, although they're a type of another army that the Lord is going to empower to destroy modern Babylon, which we can talk about what that represents. But yeah, here is a map where Babylon was back then. You see here Jerusalem. So it's around east of Jerusalem, more like northeast. So when they came to Jerusalem, again, they always come through the north. And Babylon was established more close to the rivers, like next to the river Euphrates. But you have that whole area, Mesopotamia, which means between the rivers. So you have the Tigris and the Euphrates. And that phrase, between the rivers, always is symbolic for Satan's dominion. So, yeah, anything, guys, before move on?
No, this is great.
Well, and the name, right? The name representing gate of the gods, Bablim or Babilim, that's super symbolic because this represents a counterfeit. And so I have my little son knocking the door. So we're gonna take care of him. But then the Hebrew, so that's what the Akkadian means. But then the Hebrews, they change that to that they make sure that the word was confusion, because it represents a mingling between the languages. But also this can represent the mingling between the spiritual with the world. That's kind of the archetype.
Mingle, isn't that? I feel like is that the word they use for like when you mix wine? Mingled. Is that the right word?
Oh yeah, that word does show up.
Does it show up? I'm trying to think. Like, does it show up something else? Mingled.
Mingled with strong drink is the phrase that's coming to mind.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess it would imply the same word like mixtures, mixing of the seed too, right? And so it's funny that it has to do with confusion in that regard. Like the two definitions, gate of God and confusion because of mixing or mingling.
Yeah. What was coming to mind for me was the toes on the statue, Nebuchadnezzar's dream. I mean, I know technically the gold head is what represents Babylon, but in a sense, the whole statue is spiritual Babylon, right? And the influence that sort of trickles down. And of course, by the time you get down to the latter day, as it were, the kind of mixing ideas come to full fruition. So it doesn't lead anywhere good.
There is a good verse. Maybe I can share that very quickly. Because if you look at the map, Egypt, you have the Nile River, and then you have Babylon next to the Euphrates. Again, the rivers, these entities, they represent Satan's dominion. And then this also um, well, Zion, that is the river of Zion too, right? That flows from the Lord. And we read last class that there is this waters of salvation, and Ezekiel prophesies against Pharaoh as in Ezekiel 29. And this is what the Lord says: "Speak and say, thus saith the Lord, behold, I am against thee, Pharaoh, king of Egypt, the great dragon that lieth in the midst of his rivers." So this also parallels to Revelation 12, right? The great dragon that you see there persecuting the women. And that's a link to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, but he is a type of Satan. Joseph Smith said that, which has said, "My river is my own, and I have made it for myself." So there was so much symbolism back then to the physical location of these places that was next to a river, representing dominion, but he's in the midst of the rivers, which then gives more power to that the phrase that we learn in the temple, right? That he reigns from the rivers to the ends of the earth. And in the book of Zechariah, the Lord is the one who reigns from the river to the ends of the earth. So it's a counterfeit type of dominion.
That's a good example, yeah.
Okay, and then a couple of things very quickly that how you pronounce the name of the historian here? Herodotus.
Yeah, that worked. I like that.
Yeah. He described that Babylon was in a very plain location, which then kind of what is then there is a mountain reference, but it was this type of plain open location next to the Euphrates, and they built this temple, and there is this tradition that probably came from try to emulate the Tower of Babel, but there was a temple that Nebuchadnezzar was rebuilding, which was the Eteminanki, and the name in Akkadian means temple of the foundation of heaven and earth. So this represented that the same idea. Jerusalem means foundation too, foundation of peace, and the Lord talks about the foundation in Isaiah 28, right? The Lord will put it in Zion a stone, a foundation stone, technically. Right now, even there is the foundation stone today in Jerusalem, which the Temple Mount is, and there is this big fight between the Dome of the Rock, the Mason place, and potentially be the location of the temple, which the Jewish tradition is that was the beginning where the Lord established the beginning of creation. Anyway, but that represented what is called the Axis Mundi, the place where heaven and earth meet. As a counterfeit, of course, of Zion, which is the mountain of the Lord, which is the real temple. It's not a physical temple. The mountain of the Lord will be always a spiritual condition of the people when heaven and earth meets after Zion is born. And then, King Nebuchadnezzar, he started restoring this temple. It was dedicated to Marduk, which can be a type of Baal too. There are different Baals because Baal means Lord. So some of the deities were multiple type of Baal and so forth. Fun thing just to look at the idea of a counterfeit is what is called Ishtar Gate, and Ishtar is the Mesopotamian goddess. She's also the equivalent of Inanna, and she's called the Queen of Heaven in Jeremiah chapter 7. And they have in the city in the south of the city what is called the Ishtar Gate, and right now there is a whole monument to it. But
I think they made like a whole replica of it, right? Or
just Google it. Magnificent.
Yeah.
But she was the god of fertility, sex, war, and the gate was purposely than blue, gold, scarlet, purple. Those are the same colors of the woman in the book of Revelations, chapter 17, which are the same colors of the high priest. When you read Exodus chapter 28, the Lord described the high priest, the vestments, all of the colors are the blue. Priest always represent blue, purple, gold, scarlet, so forth, which represents counterfeit priesthood. That is the whole idea of what when Nephi said that the great abominable church, he loves the harlots and the gold and the silver. He's describing, rather than just a carnal desire for women or materialism, he's describing priesthood colors, because that's the worship that Satan always is going after. So this woman represents this counterfeit, the idea of a gate. Again, that's we enter into the straight and narrow path, right? There is a gate for Zion. Zion, always the gates are mentioned in Proverbs for the woman in Proverbs 31. But gate also can be a euphemism for intimacy, right? That's when you have that relationship with the gods, with God specifically. And yeah, there was this processional way that they celebrated the New Year when they brought this statue of Marduk and they entered through the gates of the city, eventually to the temple, and they celebrate that every year. And Ishtar Gate was, a symbolic ritual for that, which you can make the case of, some type of counterfeit to the straight and narrow path and so forth. Anything to add on that?
No, that's good. I was thinking it can represent like a portal also, so, some way of traveling through.
Yeah. And one more thing on Ishtar, because she was so into the culture. The word Ishtar is, if you trace it, it's the word for star. And it is because she was the morning star. And that's Venus. Venus is the morning star. So she was some type of representation of that. And that element is very symbolic because Venus represents rebirth, and Christ called himself the morning star too. So you have a lot of parallelism between that. And King Nebuchadnezzar was the one who eventually destroys the temple of Jerusalem, which then kind of puts Babylon now as the reigning. Back then, that was the empire who overtook over the world with all of these archetypes. And that's what Zechariah mentioned, right? The Ark of the Covenant now going to Babylon and all of that. So that's just to set the stage of how prominent Babylon is. The only thing is not in Isaiah's timeline. So Isaiah's, when people said that Isaiah only speaks for his time, this chapter here is one of the evidence that Isaiah has actually seen the future, because this was around 120 years from Isaiah's own time when Babylon was destroyed. Okay.
This just was adding to the Babylon system. I was thinking in relation to, we're talking about this counterfeit mountain is what we're opening chapter 13 with. And we're opening with a barren mountain, but here in Isaiah 57, it just talks about on a high and lofty hill, you've made your bed. And there you went up to offer sacrifices, behold, behind the door. So again, there's like doorpost, there's gate, or, portal significance, or yes, even temple symbolism, going behind a door, somewhere more holy or sacred. You set up your memorial, forsaking me. You uncovered your bed and climbed up and opened it wide. You have made a pact with those whose bed you have loved, and you've gazed upon their nakedness. And then it's not a far reach then to kind of like connect Isaiah 28 here and talking about, in essence, maybe the covenant of death and all all those things, but then also just representing that in that chapter they talk about the bed or the couch being too short, and that the covering is too narrow. And so in relation to participating in the Babylon system, I would say that's like a consequence of what happens there to participating in it, that you don't have a covering and there's no place to stretch out. And I don't know what else you guys want to say about.
Well, that's the Tower of Babel. We know that there were 7. It's called cigarettes, right?
Yeah.
And structure one upon the other. The last one, some of the traditions was open, so then they can. There is this word for a harlot that is consecrated to the gods. So they offer this woman to the gods. And the word is the same Hebrew word for holy, kadosh, but there is another word added, which is kedosha, and means a consecrated harlot for the
like,
god.
Like a temple prostitute or different?
Like a temple prostitute, yes. Yeah, so
okay.
she went up there, and lay up like naked at the top of the high place as an offering. And so you're connecting now that Babylon, again, that is a type of a mountain here, because Zion is a mountain, and as it represents the closest point from heaven and earth. But Babylon is a counterfeit mountain, and then you have the high priest, holiness to the Lord, Kadosh, and then you have the woman, which is Kedosha, a counterfeit also from that, but it's an inversion. And that's why you have that in Revelation 17, that in her forehead, similar to the high priest's forehead, right? Holiness to the Lord is in the crown of the high priest. And the woman's name is what is it, Mystery Babylon, right?
Yeah.
The mother of all harlots and abominations. And the mountain represents the top, so the forehead represents the top. And at the top of this woman system, like, because it's and what is a woman? Because Zion is a woman too, but it represents an adulterous relationship of with God. We are doing some type of change. By adulter means changing the order. But then the higher you go, then it becomes higher the iniquity, higher the abomination, and then it becomes worship to Satan. So so that all of that can be connected to this idea of the top of the mountain, the woman being offered to the gods. But then that creates that covenant with death, similar to what we're reading here. But we can, when we get to Isaiah 28, we can discuss more on what that means.
Cameron, you want to read first?
Yeah. All right. Isaiah 13, 1 through 5. The burden of Babylon, which Isaiah, son of Amos, saw. Upon a bare mountain, lift up a signal, raise voice to them, wave the hand, and let them enter the entrances of nobles. I have commanded my consecrated ones. I have also called my mighty ones for my anger, the ones exulting in my majesty. A sound of a multitude in the mountains, a likeness of a great people, a sound of uproar of kingdoms, nations being gathered. Yahweh of hosts is mustering a host of war. Coming from a land of distance, from the end of the heavens, Yahweh and the weapons of his indignation to destroy all the earth.
Well, that's a real uplifting little sequence there, isn't it? Okay, where do we want to start now? So we kind of gave the background of Babylon, and that this is where this is directed, what Isaiah saw. Let's see. So lifting up the signal, that's kind of like the ensign, like we've talked about in 5, I guess, maybe, huh? Chapter 5.
Yep.
Same ensign, same army described. Be the same one from Joel 2. trying to think of where else. So, okay, so the thing about this army. Well, let's see. Hold on. Let me see. Okay, so we're talking about lifting an ensign, raising the voice, waving the hand, right? It's the same thing in chapter 5 where he's calling, he uses like the buzzing signal or noise or raising of the ensign to call this army. And so this is where then it seems like it's actually happening here. But this is like a same negative version of an aspect of this as we have in 5. But in other places we have like the ensign standard banner as like a good thing or a good person, but this is kind of like, to me, this is like the destructive aspect of it.
Yeah. You have the wickedness reaches because people become wicked, and we embrace that somehow. You read that in Isaiah, right? We join the system, and now the Lord needs to destroy the system, and he uses the wicked to destroy the wicked. And by wicked, we can then talk about who these consecrated ones are. But it seems like there is this entity of destruction. The Lord used Assyria back then to destroy them. But then you see the parallelism between Isaiah 11, right? The banner, right? The Lord is the root of Jesse, that be for a standard to the nations. And then in chapter 12, when Zion is established, you see those who are praising the Lord, that are shouting. And now you see the other opposite here, that you have the banner, you have the raise of alert, right? There is a voice of warning. That is the praising of, which literally means raise your hands to praise the Lord, and 12. And then you have now the opposite here. You're waving the hand for this entity to come to destroy. So Isaiah's highlighting the difference between the establishment of Zion and the destruction of Babylon, and contrasting those two with the same elements.
Okay, so I have a question I was thinking about here. So in verse 2, it says, let them enter the entrance of the nobles. Do you think this is the army entering into the doors or gates or entrances of noble humans? Or do we think this is the army entering through the entrance of like coming through like a portal to do this work? You know what I mean? I wasn't sure who's coming through whose entrance there.
Yeah, well, Babylon back then, they have 8 entrances.
Uh-huh.
And one of those was the Ishtar Gate, but there were 8 entrances. All of them were given to a deity. And maybe that is a type there, that they are waving the hand where to enter. King Cyrus, when he tried to destroy Babylon, there was only one place he couldn't enter. He didn't know how to because of the river. So then he went through to the north, to Babylon, to destroy it. So now how can we translate that to today? Whatever is going to happen. The idea of noble, by the way, because Babylon is a system of hierarchies, right?
Yeah.
Positioning those who are higher, right? They have, you need to lose more of your soul to rank in this system, and it's gain, it's the advantage. And then the idea of a noble one, usually in the system here, represents somebody who has some type of unjust dominion, or it's the elites.
I was gonna say elites is probably the word everyone knows. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Elites. And there was a third, I forgot, but so they are entering into the place where you have rankings, and society has rankings. And Isaiah mentioned this: the political class, the ecclesiastical class, all of them became a system of ranking. So whatever that means, they're going to reach that entity, and they're going to destroy it.
Wait, okay, that totally makes sense, actually. Okay, so let's talk about in verse 3 who this army is, because we have like some good descriptive words here: consecrated ones, mighty ones. once exulting in my majesty, because I think all those words in Hebrew kind of give us a better idea of what this army, who they could be.
Yeah, well, translation use different words. Holy ones, I believe. Some translations mention that, but then give you impression, oh, these are the 144,000, or it's a righteous army, and not necessary, because and we talk about the word consecration, that means separation, and any army that the Lord uses, that He's empowering, He is consecrating that army for a specific purpose. For example, the Assyrian were the wrath of His anger, and they were not necessarily pure people. He's just using them for His purposes. So that's where the idea of consecration comes. Joshua consecrates the army. This is a word being used for those who are dedicated for battle, rather than a spiritual condition.
Yeah, I think that aspect of using the word is confusing. I was looking it up in the theological word book of the Old Testament. Like, there were so many actually other meanings that seems like they could be applicable. Specifically, like it. So it did have like a temple aspect and being dedicated to use of a temple, but it also had like the corrupt version of that, of being devoted to a high place that uses false worship, in essence, right? Like the Babylon system. And then also could mean like to be defiled or tabooed. And so I thought, oh, we only see the word consecrate as like this holy, good word, but there's actually like, there's way more meaning behind this word that could definitely represent a really negative aspect of it. So I was surprised to find that. And so it's like, yeah, so if the word was devoted, it's like devoted to what, or consecrated to what?
Yeah.
There's a similar thing in Joel 2 as well. The first, chunk of it is describing the invasion and destruction of this army. And then, let's see, verse 11, the Lord calls it His army, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
And yet in context, you get the sense that this is a foreign enemy.
Strong. Yeah, I wonder what strong means there. That could be like a mighty one, maybe. Oh yeah, and great and very terrible too. Yeah, terrible.
So here's the perennial question for me that I would love to get your guys' insight on. The imagery that gets applied to the remnant of Jacob and to the Assyrian army are nearly identical. They're both basically a lion, right? In Isaiah 5, in 3rd Nephi 21, tears in pieces and none can deliver, and of course in Micah. And it seems like they're obviously playing a certain role. But I guess my question is, when it comes to the destruction of the wicked, and it comes to shifting roles and who's the player and who's kind of in which position, it gets tricky for me to figure out how to take all those things and then map them, into a sort of last day scenario. So I don't know. You guys have guiding thoughts there? Because clearly we see 3rd Nephi 21, DNC 133, Micah 5, right? These are all describing scenarios in which there's a remnant of Jacob that are doing kind of a similar Zion's camp type work, to go and reclaim lost promised land from wicked Babylon.
You have thoughts on that, Rachel?
What do the question part again? Sorry.
I guess the question is, how do you know when it's the remnant of Jacob versus the Assyrian army?
Well, that is a good question, right? Because you're talking about like the lions that go through and tear through and none can deliver, and there seems to be
like the role they're playing is they're both destroying the wicked. They're both instruments that God uses to destroy the wicked, and so the language gets blurred, and it's not clear to me that it couldn't apply both ways, or that one couldn't play the role of
the other.
The other even.
Okay, so I've struggled with that too, where I'm like, which enzyme is this? Which group is this? Which, right? Because they look very similar. And I think that's on purpose. Okay, so the same way, like with this, the only difference, well, the thing that is interesting, maybe. With this, like I'm gonna have to I'll have to read the Septuagint version of these verses, because it describes and says, it uses the word giants actually to describe this army. And we have giants in the Old Testament that are mentioned in the book of Moses in 7 and 8, and so these ones to me, well, in essence, maybe right, they both have power and ability and greater capabilities than normal man. There's definitely some difficult words, right? Because the mighty one, there's good mighty ones, there's bad mighty ones. I guess really maybe it's only the context of who, what, where. I mean, how else would you know? I don't think there's any distinguishing words. You know what I mean? Rodolfo, you're chomping at the bit. Hit it.
No, I think the only problem is it's very easy to harmonize without the Book of Mormon. When you enter the Doctrine and Covenants, when you start throwing out there those chapters, Nephi 21, 20, that's when, okay, man, then how this works. Because without it, then it seems like a very interesting, very plain sequence. And I do wonder sometimes if these things might play in parallel in New Jerusalem and in Jerusalem. So you might kind of see that there is a fulfillment for each. Because we like to look at it from, first it's going to be the New Jerusalem and then the other Jerusalem as sequential. And maybe not. Maybe it might happen, I don't know, parallel too. Or there is some crossover there. But Micah chapter 5, does mention the Assyrians. Again, Micah is at the same time of Isaiah. So both of them are their enemy. The tyrant is the king of Assyria. So the Assyria are sieging in Micah chapter 5 the people, and then he uses the remnant of Jacob to come in to destroy the Assyrians. And so then you have a sequence of covenant breaking, the northern kingdom, which can be a type of the people, and Ephraimites as a whole, as a nation, has been taken over by the Assyrians. The Assyrians then go to the people, covenant people, and then the remnant of Jacob comes and delivers them. Isaiah uses the angel of the Lord. Micah uses the remnant of Jacob. The Nephi mentions something like that too, because he's quoting to these chapters in Micah. But then Isaiah chapter 10, you also have a sequence where the king of Assyria becomes the forest, right? So there is a forest. The king of Assyria is the axe who destroyed the forest. But then he becomes the forest that the remnant needs to now come and destroy. So the book of Revelation mentioned first the locust plague as the army, which is the same army in Joel, who comes first in the book of Revelation chapter 9. But then in Revelation chapter 14, you see the 144,000 coming later. And then in Isaiah, so you have here the weapons of indignation. But in Isaiah chapter, 41, the Lord uses, I will make thee a new sharp threshing. So you have the threshing, right, in Isaiah 28, which is the weapon of indignation, of judgment. But then from 40 to 66, those who are now going to gather Israel, they're going to use power to bring them in and go against any enemy that will stand in their way. they're also a weapon, but they're a weapon not to destroy. They're a weapon to build Zion, to gather the people, and so forth. So it seems to me that there is sequential order between destroying the system, then those who are destroying the system needs to be taken care of, then the people who repent are the ones who come and take care of them, but then also they rebuild the place. But will be nice to have a very easy,
like the
perfect
word host.
harmonization, right, of everything. But
Well, I know, and I was looking at this too in relation to, I was looking at the hosts of heaven, and because we have Christ as the Lord of hosts, right? And so that word host specifically has to do a lot with initially with like a war and an army, but it also has to do with the stars, you know, and like a heavenly host. So then I started looking at all the scriptures that defined what a heavenly host was, and like the assembly of the gods. And we know, like, you know, I think I did a slide later, but we might not get there, but they talk about that those are, you know, the host is who surrounds God and while he's on his throne, right? And they're like stars or a celestial aspect of that. But the reason why I started to think about then a flip side of that is because in chapter 14 of Isaiah, we have you know, a star that falls. You know, he tries to rise up high into the heavens on God's throne. He tries to exalt himself there, but then he is cast down into the pit, right? But he was a star, right? He was a highly exalted one. He was a son of God. He was you could say a watcher, a mighty one, all the words that are used to describe. I think there's like 5 words used to describe like a son of God in essence. And so it would make sense then if you use the type of, you know, from the book of Enoch, I guess Genesis 6 too, that there were exalted beings who decided to fall, right? And they fall on Mount Hermon, and they make a covenant, and they're the ones who basically we have, like, you know, all the giant Nephilim lines that come out of. But anyways, but they are represented by a host and heavenly sons of God that have a certain power to them, right? So then it would make sense that there would be a negative aspect and a positive aspect of a host of heaven.
two hands.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
One of judgment, one of deliverance, but then 2 arms playing a role. So I don't know, Cameron, if we answer or help anything, or you're more confused, or we are all of us. I think we have talked about what is the harmonization of.
It's tricky because the question is kind of like how much of the context, how much of the historical context is intended to play into the symbol that you can like take and apply to, say, a latter-day context, or even see it in other places. Like if we just take this chapter in isolation, well, it's the destruction of Babylon by the Assyrian army, as I understand it, right?
Medes or the
Medes.
Yeah.
Great. So
I mean, in history, right? In history, if it was a time and place, it's this thing, right?
Right. So, like, obviously, the way this plays out in the latter days isn't the same sort of succession of Babylon or Assyria, and then Babylon, and then the Persian and the Medes, and then Greece, and then Rome, and then that eventually there's kind of this turnaround. It's the Daniel 2 scenario where you know, the stone comes and it destroys all of the kingdoms, and it's what replaces right the wicked nations. And so my question is, when we read about the destruction of Babylon, in the end, who's carrying that out? I mean, there could still be a scenario in which the wicked are destroying the wicked. It's just it's curious to me.
Well, in Revelation 17, there are 10 horns.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that.
And they are who they have no kingdom yet, and they are the ones who want to devour the woman, and they give the authority to the beast. So it's that entity, whatever that means. We can speculate what those 10 kings are, and again, it's there today a ruling class that they have no necessary, they're not a nation president. They're not part of the UN, but they actually rule the world because of whatever power they have and influence. But they are the ones who they give the authority to the beast, and the beast then carry the work of devour the system. So there is a new system in place. So that's on a global scale, right? But what happens then in the New Jerusalem, what Jesus is talking about is very specific upon this land, upon the land that the Nephites were, that the Gentiles are occupying. That you might see maybe a composite idea, because Isaiah could not harmonize either, right? Right now he needs to talk about the destruction of Babylon because that's the system, but it was not on his time. He knew it was coming near to his future, right? About the Medes. So now the Medes technically are the same entity, and we're going to see the parallelism with the Assyrians. Although historically was not, he needs to do a composite pull from different things to kind of harmonize the prophecy. But we can jump into the slides, maybe answer. And that's our comments too, but maybe after some of the slides, we can go to some of the comments. So this first one is, there is an opening, right? There is an entrance. You see something like that in Revelation chapter 9, right? The fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth. To him was given the key of the bottomless pit. Bottomless pit in Greek is the abyss, which is that place is not the spirit world. Abyss is the underworld, where it's a prison for evil entities. And he opened the bottomless pit, the abyss, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, as the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. And then what comes from that imagery in Revelation 9 is this locust army, who are actually doing that destruction on the earth. So maybe there is a parallelism there with this. Some of these chapters. Wave the hand, that is part of there is a wave offering that. So although the signal here is a waving to indicate them, somebody's waving them and telling them where to go and destroy. That was part also of a ritual. And then you see in Isaiah 11 that the Lord, again, he will raise his hand a second time to recover his people, and then says, and he shall wave his hand over the river, which is scorching breath. And the river here can be a reference to the Euphrates back then, but in the end time, again, can be the dominion of the dragon. And he shall strike into 7 streams, and cause them to walk over the sandlands. So, and that's the parallelism that I just mentioned between Isaiah 5, which I says very specifically is talking about the Assyrians, but then in Isaiah 13 is another group. He's doing the composite to blend the prophecy. So you have he raises an ensign to distant nations, Isaiah 5, and verse 5, coming from a land of distant, that's in 13, from the ends of heaven, Yahweh and the weapons of his indignations to destroy all the earth. He raises an ensign to distant nations and summon them from beyond the horizon. Forthwith they come swiftly and speedily. Verse 30, the noise that Rachel mentioned, right? The roar over there in that day, like the roaring of the sea. And then one looks at the land, behold, darkness and distress, and the light is darkened by the clouds. And then you have the same idea of the sound of the multitude of the mountains, like a great people, the sound of uproar, of kingdoms, nation being gathered. Yahweh host is mastering a host of war. So same idea as a type.
Well, and then I think you could connect that to the opening of the pit and the smoke that comes out, because the smoke causes darkness. And maybe that connects to the darkness that the sun and the moon and the stars don't give their light, or maybe that could also be a different representation of something else, but it could be like, you could connect.
Well, I mean, like Joel 2 connects those symbols.
Totally.
So, I mean, I think certainly they're all kind of intended to go together.
And this is very important to notice, because we have here that the I think you mentioned that in Joel 2, Cameron. I I have commanded my consecrate mine.
Mhm.
Mine, my anger. So the Lord is doing this. So the
Mhm.
Lord is the one who is right now. The possessive here is He's telling us He is the one who is doing this. And in Revelation 17, what is it? Revelation? So these are the one who destroyed the woman, um, the whole Babylon, the system. For God hath put in their hearts to fulfill His will and to agree and give the kingdom unto the beast. So
Mhm.
God is the one who is behind right now, the influencing the destruction of Babylon, despite that these 10 horns might be wicked people. um, the Lord is the one who is putting in their hearts to fulfill God's will against which, yeah. And King of Assyria mentioned that, right? He knew I'm doing God's will. God is the one who empowered me
Mhm.
to come to Jerusalem in Isaiah chapter 36. He knew about the prophecy of Isaiah and he's boasting himself. Your God is the one who empowered me to do this. The same in King Nebuchadnezzar, right? I mentioned to Rachel that in some of Jewish tradition, the Lord showed King Nebuchadnezzar a vision when Michael, the archangel, was in chains. So the Lord cannot put him in chains. So then he was not able to defend Jerusalem, and so then Nebuchadnezzar got a lot of confidence and went after Jerusalem and was able to destroy it. So there is this back then this idea of the Lord empowering them, and they believe in the Lord were empowering them to go after the whatever commission they felt they had. So
Which I get is kind of like a weird idea when it's you're thinking of like God causing bad acts to happen. You know what I mean? It's a little bit maybe hard to wrap your brain around for a second, but okay. This was the Septuagint translation of Isaiah 13:2-3. I just thought I'd share this because interesting, right? Lift up the standard on the mountain of the plain, exalt the voice to them, beckon with the hand, open the gates, ye rulers. I give command and I bring them. Giants are coming to fulfill my wrath, rejoicing at the same time and insulting. Voice of many nations on the mountains, even like to that of many nations. A voice of kings and nations gathered together. The Lord of hosts has given command to a warlike nation to come from a land far off. From the utmost foundation of heaven, the Lord and his warriors are coming to destroy all the world. Okay, so where they come from, I feel like, is potentially also a key way to define because in chapter 5:2, we talk about they come from this land from far off. This is from, um, it doesn't sound like a physical place on earth to me when you look at the Hebrew and where this word's used other places. It's like it's from somewhere else. I feel like it's not from a place.
around. No, yeah, it's not from like what we know as reality, right? That
Yeah.
the opening of the gate, whatever that gate is. Well, in the Book of Revelation, is the abyss
Yeah.
that's
Well,
open.
and who's in the abyss? If you look at the book of Enoch and you go back to the Watchers, it's the Watchers who came down and fell from their, star glory, and they mated with the daughters of men, and they had these giants. And then so the giants, not all of them are killed, but many of them are killed, and the Watchers, and they're put down into the pit, right? And that they're in there as far as we know now, because I don't think the pit's been opened, right?
No, and
So
they're going to be there until the day of the Lord, right? The day of
well,
vengeance.
yeah, until they're released, right? So whoever
Yeah.
comes with that key and lets them out. So then when that's unleashed, that's like they're coming from another worldly place. I mean, I don't know if that you could say that's the utmost foundation of heaven. I don't know, but
Yeah, and the Septuagint, this was done by the 70. They were Hebrews elders who were at the time of, so at the time of Maccabees. Um, but they were the ones who translate this into Greek, and then from Greek, Matthew translated from the Septuagint then to Hebrew. So they understood somehow they chose this word to, because the word in Hebrew is gibor, which is mighty, and a mighty one. Again, the gods were mighty. So in Isaiah chapter 9, right, there we have the famous El Gibor, right, the mighty God. The unto us a son is given, right, we shall be called wonderful, almighty God, and so forth. The Hebrew is mighty warrior, because that's what Gibor means. And but then Nimrod became also a mighty warrior. We call hunter, but actually the word is he became a mighty warrior, whatever that means, right? He kind of changed somehow into a status of some of these, I don't know, gods, that they were mighty back then. And that's why they make the association with the Nephilim and so forth.
Yeah.
When they were the mix, the mingling between angels and human, and they became men of great renown. That's the same idea behind a Gibor. But that just to show you the mindset of, they were familiar with the Book of Enoch, and probably they took some of that and make the connection that, oh, this is the army that Rachel is speaking about. So to give you some context, what that can mean. So yeah, whatever it is, right? That
Right,
was
I'm not saying it is. I'm saying
it can be.
there's definitely a case for it. Scripturally, there is a case for it. I've been looking at it a lot more. Like, it took me a while to start to like look into the whole giants thing. I thought, but I'm totally there now. I'm like, okay, I get
put
it.
a pin on that for sure, right? That consider that. So then when you see, well, we're gonna see what happens, right? The people are gonna freak out in a way.
Whatever happens, it's enough to cause terror.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless there is a super army hiding in China or Russia, I don't think the US is, for what we have seen so far. But what we see from Russia and Ukraine, these guys are overpowering everyone. So there's like this picture here that we have.
Is it Joel or is it Isaiah where they fall on, if they get, what is it talking about? Like fall on their sword, they don't die. They like, there's, I can't remember where it is.
In Revelation too.
Yeah, they don't die is what it sounds like, which is bizarre. So I don't know. Yeah.
Let's
guys. Well, one quick thought.
Yeah.
Just entertain me for a second. Would you go to DNC 87? So let's suppose for a moment, I'm just thinking out loud, and maybe this isn't the most productive thing to do while we're going through this. So the very end, is it verse 6? No, the one before that. Yeah. It shall come to pass also that the remnants who are left of the land will marshal themselves and shall become exceedingly angry and shall vex the Gentiles with a sore vexation. This was understood in its context when it was given to be a reference to the Lamanites, the Native Americans that had been scattered, and was a fulfillment, or going to be a fulfillment, of 3 Nephi 21, of the remnant of Jacob, and of the idea of that portion of the remnant of Jacob in this particular context sort of playing this role. When I read this, it doesn't appear to me like the role they're playing is like initially a repentant one. Like this doesn't to me look, maybe it could be, it doesn't to me look quite like Zion's camp or like Captain Moroni rallying around the title of liberty. The point I guess I'm trying to make is, I wonder if it's not the pattern for the remnant of Jacob to first be empowered by God to the overflow of their overthrow of their enemies, overthrow of the Gentiles in all of their respective contexts, only after to then repent and come around and be the means in which God establishes his kingdom, if that makes sense. Reason I bring that up is because, and nobody quote me on this, but there's just the smallest part of me that wonders if, when we're talking about the 10 horns on the beast, and we're talking about an army from the north that's being empowered, and there are clear connections to D&C 133, if we're not describing the 10 tribes. But I mean, there are probably like several massive contextual details that I'm missing. But I guess all I'm saying is I wonder if there's just more to that scenario than maybe we assume.
Well, yeah,
I mean,
no,
is that eligible or like?
Yeah, no. Well, one thing, this section though, it does end here to until the consummation decree have made full of end of the nations. That consummation decree is, we're going to read it next week, also was in Isaiah chapter 10. And so whatever this was given, right, it began as a type for the Civil War. Eventually it's shifting very quickly to the end time, which hasn't happened yet. And all of this is scatological. You can make all of these plague, earthquake, thunders to 2 Nephi 27, Book of Revelation, section 45, and so forth. Yeah, it can be, well, what if there is one tribe, like I always mention the tribe of Dan, they're a lion, and the blessing given to them, and the Deuteronomy 33, not the one actually on Genesis 49, which is Jacob's Israel blessing to the tribes. They're a serpent, they're a snake. And then in Moses' blessing in Deuteronomy 33 to the tribes, they're a young lion who's going to leap from Bashan, from the north.
Yeah, so are they the lion that comes out of the thicket?
Yeah.
The Gentiles?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So they come from the north. Mm-hmm. And then the tribe of Dan doesn't mention as part of the 144,000. So I always thought, okay, what does this mean? I have a book called from the University of Oxford that is the Oxford Eschatology, and they put a compilation of all of these end time things, and they put some quotes of people believing that the Antichrist is from the tribe of Dan, because of all of these connections to the serpent, to the lion, to the north, not being part of the 144,000. So definitely there is something there that I would like to understand better. But yeah, for sure, all of this, when it happens, will make more sense. But I can see what you're saying, though, that it can be that they have first a role and then they convert somehow.
Well, part of the reason like this was initially sparked for me was when we consider, okay, this is a shift from, like Nephi says, the gospel goes from the Jews to the Gentiles and then from the Gentiles back to the Jews. When the first shift happened, yes, there were Gentile conversions that were happening, but Rome was the instrument God used to destroy Israel, to destroy Jerusalem, and later sort of internalize Christianity in a way that it actually ends up like, spreading like wildfire in the very instrument that God used to destroy Israel, God's people. So I wonder if, as things switch back from the Gentiles back to the Jews or back to the Israelites, if God doesn't empower those remnants in a similar way, and then there's a conversion as well. But I'm just speculating.
Yeah. What and yeah, this is leading to also the time of the tribulation, and when is the marker given for that time? and usually it's after the abomination of desolation. If you we can make the case for that, when this army comes, and so a lot of things can happen. I think we're gonna, if we are right now, I believe we are getting into very climax timeline right now because of all the events around. I have not seen an army or a people that I can say, oh, these are like, I don't think the Native Americans qualify. What are the 10 tribes, right? Are they coming out of the earth from another realm? That's what these chapters are maybe hinting to. They're hidden somehow, and then they're coming in. But yeah, the problem is 25:21, because we're trying to harmonize the remnant of Jacob with the destruction agent, and in Revelation and in the book of Isaiah and the book of Joel, there are different entities that come in one phase of destruction, then the other good army goes into the restoration of the tribes and gathering of the people into Zion and so forth. But
well, and I don't even know that it's strictly a Book of Mormon issue as much as it is. We get so many snapshots from the contemporary scenario. There's so many different episodes that are happening, and so when we're looking at the end times, trying to figure out how we take all those and stack all of them together is where it seems like it gets tricky. Because of course, 3rd Nephi 21 is just quoting Micah, like we've talked about. So figuring out, okay, where does the remnant of Jacob fit into the destruction of Babylon and the destruction of Assyria, it's just figuring out how to stack all those things up is where there's some mystery. And it's like we talk about, it's the Karate Kid thing where, you start with all the parts, and then once there's a revelation and you see it, you're like, oh yeah, I can and look back and see how this all fit together all along. But yeah, no, certainly some mystery there.
Awesome. Great discussion.
Well, it's always good. I always like the live questions as they start, as your hamster starts slowing down on its wheel or speeding up, and then it falls off, and I'm like, oh shoot. Okay, so the weapons of indignation we talked about. What verse was that? It's in verse 5 of Isaiah 13. I just thought I'd pull up the whole thing here and do a word study real fast. So the Lord in this, he opens his armory and he brings forth the weapons of his indignation. Okay, and this is for the work of the Lord God of hosts, and that represents his title as a warrior king or warrior god. And specific to Jeremiah here, it's in the land of the Chaldeans. But it's interesting that his weapons here have to do with his work. And so maybe there's a good connection with that.
And there's a new weapon in 52, which is a good weapon. So that there you have also Jeremiah mentioned some of that kind of dual aspect of one hand of judgment, one of deliverance. Does it happen in sequence? Does it happen in parallel? It's the same group doing one role or another one. We don't know yet. So I think that's what we.
Yeah, there could be lots of confusion going on in different parts of the world, and while different things are potentially happening,
And maybe a very quick parenthesis here, that what is the purpose of prophecy, right? It's not necessary to. I think we do want to figure it out and put the puzzle right. We are doing time. I always doing timelines, and I have all try to harmonize. But I don't think it was never the get a figure it out moment, right? I figured it out. I always kind of think that, I think I figured it out now because I'm putting things together, and then another verse comes and then throw all your sequence apart, more than what is the purpose of prophecy then for us to start looking forward to the signs and the season, right? We don't know the hour and the day, but we can look at the types and then start getting, because the Lord wants us to trust in him eventually, rather than, I think it's an arm of flesh desire to know it all before it happens. So then I know it, right? More than have enough for us to eventually trusting him, knowing that, okay, we know it's happening, and now there is always this leap in the darkness that we have to make to keep trusting him and receive more knowledge and all of that. Sorry, Rachel.
No, you're totally fine. I like that. I always try to have like I never do the linear thing because my brain it's much easier to have it as like pieces floating around there, but and having different scenarios, it's like it could be this or this, and then yeah, you're not married and stuck to one thing and missing something. Okay, so weapons of indignation, the word weapon here, the initial word is something prepared. It's some kind of apparatus as like an implement or utensil, a tool, a vessel, weapon. And then the root word has to do with actually to complete, to bring to an end, to finish, accomplish, fulfill, bring to pass, determine, put an end to, cause, cease, fail, exhaust, use up, spend, destroy, exterminate. Okay, so that's the root word behind this weapon. This was interesting. The Akkadian root has both the meanings cease and finish, and then delay and hold back. And so there was this aspect of like that maybe suggests that cease is a derivative of the word hold back. But I thought that was interesting in relation to the one who withholds or holds. Where is that, Rodolfo? In
Sorry.
Is that Second Thessalonians? Where is it? The one who withholds.
Oh yeah, Second Thessalonians 2.
Yeah. So I just thought,
He's
that's interesting.
Until he's removed out of the place. So something is restraining him. Well, this is kind of, again, to go back to have good nightmares. Not good night, to have nightmares. Paul is mentioning back then that right now something is restraining that's talking about the man of lawlessness, which is we call him the Antichrist. That's the name that we tokenize this individual as the beast. But Paul called him the man of lawlessness. Back then, he was restrained to command, but eventually, whatever is restraining him is going to be out of the way. And that happens again. It's been happening for 2,000 years. So who the heck is this guy, right? It's not necessarily a mortal man who we're going to be dealing with. But anyway,
interesting, right? Little thing. There's someone who's delaying or holding back. I thought, oh, that's interesting that root in Akkadian has to do with that. So just a fun side note. Okay. Yeah, the noun here. Okay, so denotes equipment, containers, tools that would be like appropriate to a specific service or occupation. So like for the soldier's equipment, it would be like armor or weapons. The musician's equipment would be an instrument. Builder's equipment would be a tool. Finely worked items of gold and silver, they're called jewels or vessels, so that's one aspect of that word for weapon. The other aspect that the root word having to do with bring a process to completion, right? And this picture is a picture of like a threshing. It's like a threshing sledge, maybe.
Yeah.
I just thought it was kind of applicable to an end time weapon. But so that process where things are like brought to an end, it could be a positive process or negative. It could be something continually added to until it becomes full or complete, or it could be something that's taken away from until there's nothing left. So it has like that dual aspect of it, which is really interesting in order for it to be completed. So the processes that are defined in the scriptures, these are just some of them. There's more than this, but that can be brought to completion. So the building of a temple, to speak, words can be brought to completion, eating, drinking, offering, harvesting, all those things have that process. And so the emphasis is on like the totality, not that a person simply it's not that a person simply came to a certain like point in a process and they stopped, but they carried it in full, right? So I was kind of thinking like the fullness of the Gentiles too aspect, right? Where it's like,
it's finished.
Yeah, finished, right? And even like the Lord, I think when he's performing the atonement, he says it is finished, right?
Yeah. Well, like I said, with John 17, when he's doing the prayer, he said that I have finished the work that has given me. But then the Father has a work. So it's the work of the Father in the end time. So Christ finished his work when he came to earth to atone. It is finished. But now there is also a work now, the Father, that he will need to finish too. I love that.
Yeah, interesting, right? So one example of this that I liked was just, so Naomi, she tells Ruth in Ruth 3:18, then said she, sit still, my daughter, until thou know how the matter will fall, for the man, meaning Boaz, will not be in rest until he have finished the thing this day. And rest also, represents that aspect of that we talked about earlier, like the bed, that bed of rest, for good or for bad. Earlier in that chapter where I talked about it being on top of the mountain earlier, it's talks about the righteous who have rest and the wicked who don't have rest. So in relation to being able to finish and complete a thing, that is when your rest can come.
Does Nephi say that to Lemuel and Lemuel at the
I don't even know.
Yeah, the Lord, the work of the Lord has commanded us, and
good, that's a good
try to distract him, and
okay, I got it.
That came to my mind, but
that's good. Okay, so then last aspect here, so on the negative side, it's like you would describe it as used up or vanished, spent, consumed, like it's finished, like it's gone, like depleted from, right? And so your day can be spent, is defined in the scriptures there. Your strength, grass can dry up and wither or fail. The eyes can fail through weeping, like we talked about Jacob a couple chapters back. The spirit and the soul, because of the separation from God, they pine away to the point of fainting. And then the body itself can finally come to being consumed. And that's why I have the picture of that headstone there. I kept trying to create one with putting a name on it. And I was like, I don't want anyone's name on that. That's so weird. So the idea of being consumed, also that is applied to like violent destruction by war oftentimes. And there's a couple scriptures there. Let's see, what do I have? So often that destruction is directly connected to your relationship with God. Those who forsake the Lord will be consumed in Isaiah there. And then in such destruction that God's wrath has accomplished his work, it's completed. So
yeah, that's well, let's read some comments, because we have some good questions here, and you guys can tackle some of these. So let's go back to, well, thank you everyone in the chat for making comments. So let's see. So first one, yeah, so everything about Babylon seems to be a counterfeit, confusion. Yes, so it's the mingling, right? It's the confusion. But the Hebrew, if you go to the etymology of the Hebrew version of Babel, means confusion, because it's not like the Lord separates, the Lord divides, right? And it is good. In creation, he divides, he creates division between light and darkness, and the waters from the earth, and the wicked from the righteous. What Babylon does is blend, and it creates, it's a very hard way to discern. Like the Lord told Joseph, you cannot discern the wicked from the righteous. And eventually he gave him a key to discern in section 84 the wicked from the righteous. But even Joseph was not able to discern the wicked from the righteous in chapter 10 at the beginning. And that's what Satan domains always says, is in the blending of ideas, and the degree of separation can be very thin, that you think we're doing the right thing, where we are actually under a Babylonian system. And that's why in Isaiah 47, Babylon is a witch who has this poison, right? And it's like how do you call when you are like a spell?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a spell that
under a spell.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. I don't know about this one, guys. Can you guys answer that? The suspend.
Yeah, does the ancient principle of lex talionis, an eye for an eye, factor in this condemnation of Babylon, that God's covenant people have been scattered and diminished within Babylon? Yeah, so the question is, if I understand it, because Babylon did this to God's people, does the same thing then happen to them? I do think there's an element of that, but I think the reason that it happens is because there's also a righteous remnant that they're persecuting, right? And so as they what's the language that gets used in 121? As they endure it well, God exalts them on high. Or in 1 Nephi 14, the power of the Lamb comes down and endows them. So the point being that when the wicked seek to carry out judgment against God's people who are in a righteous condition, that there actually is kind of a reversal that happens. And so part of what's tricky is that, I mean, to your point about mixing, the righteous and the wicked are all for this harvest, right? They're all kind of interspersed in some sense. So all of these things kind of happen together and work together, it seems like
the wheat and tares. Maybe it's like everything
exactly
in together. Yeah,
but it does feel like in Revelation 18, the Lord says Babylon is going to pay double all of her iniquities. So there is some type of payment associated maybe to what the question has been asked, right? That an eye for an eye, but the Lord makes Babylon pay double, whatever that means. I have ideas, because then God's people in Isaiah 40, Jerusalem, they pay double because of their transgression. So it's the same woman that was Babylon, now comes out of Babylon. That's, we have been called to become out of Babylon, means we are part of Babylon. So it's one woman now becoming Zion who was in a Babylonian condition and so forth. So next one. Now God is bringing just a reversal to redeem his people in the eyes of the nations. Rachel, you want to answer that?
Now God is bringing a just reversal to redeem people for that in the eyes of the nations. I don't understand the question.
Yeah, so the judgment, right? That it's a reversal now to Babylon, right? Well, yes. So, and First Nephi 14, you see the great now in our church. She is persecuting the saints, and then the saints feels like the power of God comes fall upon them, right? And then the judgment goes to Babylon. In the book of Isaiah, when the people are redeemed in Isaiah 37, but this is when the Assyrian army is destroyed, then they are destroyed in a way that then everybody recognizes that Yahweh, one, is the highest God among all gods, and two, he's with Jerusalem. So then it became as a triumph for the world to recognize Yahweh's superiority among all other people, and that he dwells in Jerusalem, he dwells in Zion. So whatever that destruction of Babylon is going to be, I think it's not prepared the way for the nations to start recognizing the Lord and where he dwells, which is going to be eventually Zion and Jerusalem. That I don't know if that, Rachel, helps or.
Yeah. I don't understand the question.
So let's see. This is maybe a good question. That's for you guys.
Yeah. So at first, it seems that Zion is being built because they have to flee, but they will have the power from God to withstand the Babylon army. But does Zion actually turn on? I think the rest of that says Babylon, or is it always in defense mode and protecting its location? I think the way to think about it is Zion's camp. as a type and shadow, right? There's both a gathering, but also what we might call the abomination of desolation. The transgression of the holy place, the beast making war with the lamb, with the saints, driving them, scattering them, so that they have to come and return and reclaim their land. This is what DNC 101 in essence is all about, the parable of the vineyard.
Yeah, it feels like there is this sequence, though, like in section 45 and at the end of section 60, what is it, 60, 68? That mentioned that, Zion, they are gathered out, but they become terrible ones. So that's, I think, in Revelation 12. So what is it? Right? So, just me translation of Revelation 12. The woman has been pushed to the wilderness, and she's in travail, right? So that's the idea of going to a tribulation or travail, and that they're born under that condition, right? Whatever pressure they are going to be put because of persecution, it's going to be the pressure that's going to help them now to become on a higher spiritual level, which then coincides. There is a parallel there to the power they gain from God that comes upon them, who makes them mighty. And then nobody go like Enoch. Enoch is, of course, the perfect type of that, right? Eventually, nobody there to go to Zion because they were different. they would freak out about them. They were powerful and so forth. So
yeah, well, I think the way that those things play together is probably something like First Nephi 14 or Daniel 7 with Adam and Naaman, where there's a period where they're tried and refined and persecuted, and then eventually the Lord says, "Okay, in a sense, you've endured it well, you've been sufficiently purified," and then they receive the power to sort of destroy all the wicked, and then everybody's scared to go against them because of, in a sense, the level of purity they've attained to has endowed them with greater power.
Awesome. This is a Rachel question.
I was just going to say, you want me to answer this or don't you? Yeah, do the forces of evil have power to open portals to bring giants here? Right now, I'm like, I think so. I think they're trying to. I think if you guys want to read about giants a little bit more, there's like a couple books that I feel like were helpful in my process of like being willing to consider what is going on there. And there's two by Brian Godwa, who he writes novels about biblical things, but these two books are called, they're not his novels. They're the research he did to write his fiction. And so they're all scriptural based. And so they're called When Watchers Ruled the Nations and When Giants Were on the Earth. And those were both easy reads for me. And then a new one I have that is a way bigger read, and there's two parts, is from Gary Wayne, and it's called The Genesis 6 Conspiracy. And part 2 is all scripture. Part 1 is all about weird conspiracy things. But part 2 I'm really liking. It has tons of, it's all very scripture based, and he weaves the thread of showing how this has been a type and moves it through. So without getting like specific to that, I think absolutely. I mean, I feel like I'm not the only one noticing that more evil things seem to be rearing their ugly head, in the sense that we're more aware of them, right? In relation to the Epstein files and all those things that are in there, in relation to SRA, there's just all kinds of things starting to come out that people are becoming more aware of and seeing and considering. And you have to kind of realize that evil is equally as orchestrated and planned and performed as righteousness and light and good things are, right? They're very they each have a hierarchy and they have rules and laws, and they're very orchestrated on both ends of it. So I would say yes, because why not?
I will add to that I think for so long we have been divided by maybe we thought the battle was on the right versus left, right? We get into politics a lot. I fall into that myself, and I think that's what they want us to be
Divided.
worry about, divided. But with the Epstein files coming in and some of the things we're learning there, that there is a group of people who have a different mindset. They don't, like, we react very easily to other people, like most people, right? The majority, maybe we see somebody suffering, we suffer, we feel the suffering, we react, we help. We see a little child crying, we react to that. And somehow there is another group of people that they don't think that way, and somehow they camouflage their psychopath behavior, and now they were able to navigate and hold a position higher in authority than other people, and for them they have different beliefs. It's hard sometimes to understand. They don't have the same empathy level that most people have, and they are the ones who have been in charge. And at that level, again, we know that they're doing awful, unimaginable things that for us it's hard to understand. But some of the comments that you read from some of these even billionaires, that they believe in portals. They believe they can change humanity, become gods, live forever. There is the different, like the idea of currency. Like most of us, we care. we are worried about paying the bills, right? That's all we care, and try to have freedom so we can worship. Other people have different motivations, and they want power, and they want power to, no matter what cost. They want to exalt themselves. And when what happened to Nimrod and the Tower of Babylon, there was a different motivation there. So I'm not surprised if people who have the means today, that they think they can open a portal so they can bring other entities. It's documented. That's the whole project on CERN, whatever place that is right now. I don't remember the location. That doing this particle collider. They want to open a portal. People who are working on quantum computers, one of the guys who's designing them literally said these things are going to be like altars. They're giant computers. They believe they look like altars for open, maybe the gate to communicate with other dimensions and so forth. So yeah, just to say that other forces, for sure. Are they going to be able to do it? I don't know. That's another question. But the fact that there is this spirit around of people who are trying to do this, and you have a big run of movies talking about parallel universe, right, multiverse, and things like that at the same time as, okay, something is going on, because they do that by design. They're trying to manifest, right, whatever plan they're having. Yeah.
Simple answer, yeah. Something weird.
Well, the destruction coming in is spiritual, literal upon Babylon.
It's got to be both, right? I don't know. I see it as both. I think. Well, we haven't gotten to let's read about the.
Yeah, let's read,
and then we'll see what. Yeah, let's like.
There is one. Babylon was a place where there was a couple of locations in Babylon that was a trade. So you go there for commerce, to exchange, and not many people dwell in those areas, right? So there was the economic aspect of Babylon that was useful, but then there was a physical location too. And I believe today, right, everything we do today is with the currency aspect that we can buy and sell. That's part of the Babylon system. Zion is the law of consecration. So we are not there yet. So we are part of that system. So if the economy collapse today, again, that's a physical reality, but then it's going to affect us, all of us, right? Because then we have no money to do the needs that we are being handed by Babylon. So then there is can be a spiritual component of it. But you're right. This next section is going to be pretty physical. You want to read them, Rachel?
Sure. Wail, for near is the day of Yahweh, like destruction from the Almighty it shall come. Therefore all hands shall go slack, and every heart of mortal shall melt. Excuse me. And they shall be terrified. Pangs and birth pains shall seize them. Like a woman in labor they shall writhe. Each at his neighbor they shall be astounded. Faces of flames are their faces. Behold, the day of the Lord is coming, cruel and overflowing wrath and burning of anger, to make the earth a desolation, and its sinners he shall destroy from it. So, I mean, right, it doesn't sound good to me there. And I think, I don't know, it seems everything has a spiritual aspect and a physical aspect to it. And the fact that there's, a physical response to this fear of this army and what's happening. I mean, that it's related and compared to, I mean, I guess you could also make a case. What's birth pain? What does labor represent? And I think there's lots of different aspects in Isaiah about it. But I mean, this desolation and destruction, this in this chapter here, a couple others, it sounds like it's, very complete, and I imagine both literally and spiritually. That's not a very fun answer, though. Sorry. It's not great.
Yeah, one, we have a couple of slides on this. Just one we don't have. Verse 7, therefore all hands shall go slack. But you mentioned that that means, right, they're gonna, it's like you cannot hold your weapons anymore. That's the imagery.
Limp, yeah.
You won't be able to fight back, technically. So whoever take the sword shall die by the sword. That's in the book of Revelation chapter 6. The red horse, right, that represented like a great sword, and then everybody who fought die. The only ones who don't want to take the sword, it says in section 45, they need to flee to Zion. But this shows that any attempt to fight what is coming is going to be
not
useless.
Can't do it, right? It's like it's not.
Yeah,
possible.
you're fighting God. The God, He's empowering them. And the Book of Mormon maybe have some of this imagery where the Lord was always with the Nephites, but then when His spirit withdrew from the Nephites, then they became as the mortal strength. So was the same than the Lamanites, but then the Lamanites became empowered by the Lord. And then, nothing you can do. When God is empowering an army, then run. And because of that, well, and again, we have the imagery of this mighty army, especially in Isaiah 5, that they don't get tired. They cannot be overcome. They are terrifying. They're fast. But then you see every heart of mortals shall melt. So as soon as this panic, that's when Jesus said in Matthew 24, same idea. Their hearts shall fail them. And we have read this in the context of men will become cold, and so we are not, we don't have empathy anymore, we're not nice anymore, we're not peacemakers. Actually, the heart shall fail them as a reference to the fear that's going to come because the tribulation that's coming. So this is the parallel idea, is a woman in travail, so to be so painful that people are gonna freaked out. They're gonna have heart attacks.
Stop it either, right? It's like there's no stopping labor. Like you can't.
Yeah, you cannot. Yeah. Me and Cameron have an idea.
Yeah, you guys have seen it.
But you cannot. Anyway, so
Well,
let's see
okay,
what
so hold on, one other thing I was thinking too, because Isaiah, he in 21:2-4, he sees a vision of like
wow.
what is it, the desert of the sea, and whatever he sees causes him to feel those birth pains and that horrible,
Yeah.
just the vision he sees of what's happening. So like the same idea of just seeing what's happening could, cause that amount of, fear to come over you. And right, the word is like writhing, it's like twisting, and it's like it's a horrible physical response. Sorry guys.
No, that's great. Actually, that chapter is very, because he saw the extent of the destruction, and he refused to be comforted because it was so painful to see the
Because he had
vision.
empathy, right? It's like to having so much compassion for seeing something
Yeah.
so horrible that's coming, not just for yourself because you're afraid, but because you feel for everybody who has to go through it. Like
That's how Nephi felt maybe when he came back from the vision too, and he saw the destruction of his people. He
yeah,
was totally overcome by it. Yeah, the day of the Lord, that's a phrase for that specific time. Here in Isaiah, it's mentioned twice, and it's mentioned multiple times. In Isaiah 13, it's mentioned twice, verse 6 and verse 9, that that's the day of the Lord. This really, when the Lord really empowers this army to come and destroy the system, then that is a marker of what's going on. But then you can see that that's been prophesied among all um, major prophets, and Doctrine and Covenants are many references to, so you can take the screenshot and find the references.
so I won't hit any of these here, but just here's like 10 verses in Isaiah that talk about specifically birth pain passages, but they're all throughout the scriptures, and I think they each have like a little bit of a nuanced aspect.
Some people born, right? So people they bring only when.
Yeah, some there's also where there isn't strength to deliver to.
There's no strength to deliver.
Mm-hmm.
They are too terrified to deliver. They passed out.
Yeah, sorry, I have a kid leaving.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, so there's just a few different of those. I have a paper I got to read on it still, but sorry, I did do a picture of the man in labor. I made her look nice. He's the one that's
oh, yeah, I didn't see that image. I missed that one. But Jeremiah mentioned, right? Yeah, you're quoting Jeremiah 30 right there.
Yeah. Go ahead, Rodolfo, you can read that.
I think Cameron wants to read this.
Oh man, I'm uncomfortable just looking at this. For thus saith the Lord, we have heard a voice of trembling, of fear, and not of peace. Ask ye now, and see whether a man doth travail with child. Wherefore do I see every man with his hands on his loins, as a woman in travail, and all faces are turned into paleness? Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it.
Oh gosh. Jacob's trouble, is that, I feel like I didn't pull my notes up on that. Is this when his face, and the face turns pale? Is this when he is confronted with Esau, or is this a different?
Yeah, well,
is that what I'm? Why am I?
These accounts, right? He's yes. Well, I know.
Like I don't scripture. I'm trying to think of what is the.
Well, Peol is the last horse of the 4 horses.
Yeah.
And you see the same idea from white horse to then red, black, pale, and Paul mentioned that when they see peace and safety, and peace is white, like a white flag, then tribulation comes. So there's a shade of colors here representing reactions to these events. And so Paul said that in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, that when they say peace and safety, then tribulation comes as a woman in travail. And you can see, okay, the white horse might represent that false peace coming in, but then that is going to be a counterfeit, because then it's going to transform into being pale here represents, and I believe in Isaiah 27 also mentioned that his face will never turn into what is it, King James? I think it's pale. And oh, anyway, so what I'm trying to say is the in the book of Revelation you have the counterfeit, who the false prophet and the beast deceive the nations. He then does that in the book of Daniel. He creates a covenant of the alliance of peace, but then he goes into the temple and then he put himself as God. He defiles the temple, and then tribulation comes. So yeah, you this is the phase where the Lord is going to cast this trouble, and this trouble, part of it is going to be because of this army he's empowering to destroy all the earth. So yeah, that's part of that day of Jacob's trouble.
So yeah, Isaiah 29. Jacob shall not be ashamed, neither shall his face
29, yeah.
wax pale. Is that it?
Yeah. So say that again.
Yeah, it says Jacob shall not be ashamed, neither shall his face wax pale.
Yep.
When he sees his children, the work of mine hands. Okay.
Is that Malachi 3?
Isaiah 29, 22.
Oh, I think you get similar language in Malachi 3.
Yeah, I bet you there's another.
Yeah, and I think in Deuteronomy 30, what is it? 32? I don't want to go there, but just for time's sake, the Lord tells Israel is going to go to tribulation, but the Lord will deliver them. That's going to be the time of Jacob's trouble as a woman in travail. And then this is the last two verses for the stars of heavens. So the chapter has 22 verses, but we're going to stop here at 11. For the stars of heaven and their constellation shall not flash for the light. The sun is dark and it's not going forth, and the moon shall not make bright its light. And I will visit upon the world evil, and upon the wicked their iniquity, and I will cause the pride of the arrogant to cease, and the majesty of the ruthless shall bring low. And this parallel with Isaiah chapter 2, that everything that's exalted, the Lord is going to go down, and then he mentions 7 things he's going to go after: against the ships of the sea, against the high mountains, high towers. So all the system that today is being lifted up against Zion Babylon is a counterfeit system. Everything that is a material type of, even a spiritual type, like for example, our worship, that we rely so much on physical elements of our worship, but if it's not happening internally, then that's Babylon. All of what is the name? I'm trying to say the simulation, right? It's like a construct of reality that we have built, but then it's manifested in the system. Today, the world's economy is the U.S. still so the dollar is part of it. Is everything that rule over the people is that system that is a temporal system. It's a state, but also the religion. It's a false religion that doesn't produce righteousness or fruit or Zion. So as long as those things are not happening, then we are in that Babylon condition. And then the heavens here, you see the cataclysm event that the Lord is going to bring down this, but somehow, and specifically because of the smoke coming out of the pit in Revelation 9, that the sun is dark and the moon doesn't break light, because people then they believe these are eclipses. Oh, an eclipse might be the sign of the sun being dark, the moon become blood. But in the book of Revelation, it's clear that it's because of the smoke that the sun is dark. It's not an eclipse. Anyway,
a fun read on this, if you guys want some catastrophism, is Anthony Larson's book, And the Moon Shall Turn to Blood, I think it's called.
I bought it. I haven't read it yet. After you recommended it, I gotta read it. I have it though.
Yeah, that's a fun one.
He's big on cosmology, right? He's a cosmology.
Right. Yeah, he kind of gets into how all of these things can actually be explained by certain, kind of cosmological events.
Sounds fun.
Or rather, they all kind of fit together, and they happen together for a reason. And there's definitely some space level stuff going on. So anyway,
yeah. Well, in Revelation 2, when all of this is being low, the pride is being brought low, right? Humans' pride is being brought low. People are gonna go to the holes of the rock, right, to hide. So it tells you that something is coming, and can be a nuclear holocaust. Again, the arrows and Isaiah 21 can be a reference to the Elamites, to nuclear holocaust, or it can be like objects coming, like asteroid, like a comet coming down and hitting the Earth. That's one of those planet killers. Again, it will destroy the whole system. Just the fact knowing that, there is an object coming in, it will collapse the economy right away. Because then nothing will matter. So you'll try to find refuge. So that's what those are the hints that sometimes I get when I read these chapters, that the Lord might bring something coming that will be impossible to stop. And when he's doing, actually, after he's letting these things to play out and let the beast to take over, right? He's gonna do things that only he can do, and it's going to be a witness for everyone to recognize God as the only God, and it's going to be in a way that's going to be majestic, that there is no other exclamation than to say, he's God, he's just, he's all powerful, and then human has no power at all to stop it. Anyways, so let's see a few more comments, and then we can call. Unless you have more comments on these guys, by the way.
I have one comment, because I didn't get to finish. I didn't get to thresh this out, but I was looking at the idea of that. I was trying to look at what is darkness and what is light, or what does shining represent in relation to the stars and the moon, the sun. And in Mesopotamia and like in Numa Elish, there's and I didn't get to, like I said, I didn't get to go through this, but I just want to throw it out there to see. But like, so when a cosmic order changed, like the positions of like the heavenly luminaries were rearranged, or the aspect of like when the cosmic rule changed, the lights changed, or you could say almost like, they went out. So I was wondering if there was like a implication here where like there's a new world order that like comes, and the old one's like, destroyed and represented by not shining of those celestial bodies, because it's like a new balance, new order, new something. And I don't know,
new heaven and a new earth.
Yeah. I don't know if it was like, this is a precursor to that, or is that, I don't know if it could be represented there or not. I gotta fresh it out more, but maybe.
Well, the earth is gonna move somehow in the next verse, or what is it?
Maybe that has to do with that, right? It's like it's in a different position, place. I mean,
shall roll like a scroll.
It's gonna, like the earth and the stars fall together, and they have to descend, or not the earth. The kings and the kings on earth are in parallel to the stars that get locked up in the pit, right? So it's like something. Are they not shining because they're locked up? Or are they not shining because the smoke that comes out of the pit? Are they, are there multiple reasons why they aren't shining? I don't know, but I was just wondering, what else that could represent, anyways.
So now we're out of time, but maybe let's do a quick bullet answer. You wanna read that, Cameron?
The comment.
Uh-huh.
I wonder if Zion can only rise up against Babylon only when they are fully united. The entire house of Israel, 12 tribes. The house of Israel seems more powerful in the eyes of the nations. I assume that was together. Yeah. The northern and southern kingdoms, together. Yeah.
There's a type for exiting Babylon. I don't know. Is there a type in the scriptures for rising up against Babylon, or do you leave Babylon? I don't know what.
It's a good question. I don't know. Yeah.
I can only think of I'm trying to think, what are the words in the scripture about depart, touch nothing, something as you leave Babylon, touch nothing defiled. What's the word? What's the
right? Yeah, touch an unclean thing.
Nothing unclean. Yeah. No unclean thing as you.
Well, it definitely will be a spiritual condition first of everyone, and then they're going to be gathered out. And yeah, Cameron has a lot on gathering that you guys should stay tuned for. When is your book coming in?
As soon as possible, but
sooner than when we finish the class. We promise that. But yeah, eventually it's going to be a magnetic light. What is the word? Comes closer to light in section 88.
Light cleaveth to light.
Cleaveth, that's the word, cleaveth, right? So eventually you do your best and you are one of those wise virgins and they are gathered out together. And then,
so you exit Babylon and then you can be gathered out.
Yeah. And this might happen in parallel. You see that there might a way out for some groups at different times when these things happen, but the Lord is still extending his hand even when some of these things are already happening. So whenever you are ready, like I think the Lord will help us, all of us, whenever we're ready to. Doesn't take it nothing more than just give our hearts to him. And there's a couple of comments. I wonder if this is Aaron, but because of the drawing, but I don't want to give a wrong name. This is some of what you mentioned, Rachel, about the empathy that Isaiah had.
Yeah.
That's how the Book of Mormon begins. Lehi has so much empathy for the people he prays, for them with all the energy of his soul, knowing the destruction that was coming. And then because of whatever condition he was to do that prayer, right, he was able then to be taking out the destruction of Jerusalem. And
I think you have, it's like you have to be able to feel and have that for other people in order to enter in that kind of prayer for somebody.
Yeah, paleness is how you say that? Paleness, describe loss of color, blood, and absolutely. Well, if you look at the colors in the Book of Revelation, white, red is blood because of the sword, and then black because of there is the hunger, and then famine comes because of all the death. People start being sick.
Green with the pale one. I can't remember.
The Greek is verdana, I believe, and that's green, similar to Zechariah.
Like a sick face, like the green.
Green. You see when Joe Rogan got COVID.
No, I didn't see that.
CNN. So he said he was taking ivermectin. What is it? But then CNN did a filter of him and made him green to look green.
Really?
Yeah. So he should have screwed them. It's different to when Moses comes down with the veil. Yeah, that's the opposite of receiving light. And actually, there is a connection there with Isaiah 53, that he shall be marred beyond human likeness. That's what you read in the Masoretic text. But in the Dead Sea Scrolls, there is one scroll that mentions he shall be anointed beyond human likeness, making you the idea that he's going to shine more than mortal human,
right?
Moses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's a connection. as we discussed the terrible things, do we think that if we are prepared, shall not fear? Absolutely, right? That's the message always is that God is salvation. And we have to read these verses line by line so we know the extent of how awful it's going to be. But we just read 12 2 weeks ago, where it's all about God's deliverance and how much the people are going to praise that He saved them. So
I think there's so all the things are like they're very scary and fearful, but the more I start to know and learn about it, there is knowledge, there's power in knowledge and understanding and knowing. I think that releases some of that fear. Maybe it won't take it away in the actual moment, but there has to be something with knowing and understanding that brings a little bit of, through the Lord, that brings that.
Yeah,
makes it better. At least
you cannot be saved in ignorance, and that is a physical aspect to salvation. So temporal salvation. So Cameron, this is on your ally. Pre-tribulation rapture.
Yeah, I wonder if the destruction of Babylon happens because the saints are no longer living there, that Babylon becomes darkened. There is certainly a pattern of, the apocalyptic pattern is that God sends servants to gather out the righteous, and then there's a separation that happens, and then the wicked are destroyed. So you see it happen with Lehi, or with even Moses is sort of a type of this, but of course Noah with Abinadi, Amma the Younger, or Amma the Elder rather, something that happens time and time again. So that's sort of what Joseph and the restoration and all of that sort of represent. It's the opportunity to flee Babylon, to gather out of Babylon, and for as long as that window's open, there's a chance to flee, and ultimately things ripen to such a degree that the window necessarily comes to a close. So fleeing Babylon is kind of part of becoming saintly, you might say. And of course, a big part of why end times destructions get triggered in the first place is also because there are covenant people that are invoking covenant curses through their own transgression.
But maybe the blood of the saints too that cries out from the ground. There's got to be something there too.
Right. Yep. All those things. All those things run together.
What about this one, Rachel? Could the new celestial bodies be symbolic of the sons of God?
Yeah, I think that's what we're talking about, and at least one aspect of. Next time, I'll talk about the heavenly host a little more and some scriptures on that and show how it connects. But that's some of the wording used to describe mighty ones and sons of God. And
Elohim. Yeah, those are the sons. The same word in Job, the host of heaven. We call Benin Elohim. That's the same in Genesis 6. Although they just meet, Moses 8 clarifies that those are the. Nimli has a good paper I read once about that it can be both. It can be actually there was a group of people that they were the sons of Seth, and that they were the sons of God, but doesn't take away that they might also were giants among the earth because of that mingling. So
I think they're both.
Google said that the blood moon turned red is caused by a total lunar eclipse, and only red light refracting through Earth's atmosphere. Could the moon permanently stop being the shadow of the Earth?
Yeah. Check out Anthony Larson's book.
Okay.
For maybe another perspective, because it's perhaps possible that there are other things that could turn the moon red.
Well, the smoke too. Like if
something in the air
that's a buffer. But if you take the moon out of the earth too, right? The moon keeps the earth so much in place, and if you remove the moon, then that would be fun to see.
Don't get me started on them trying to blow the moon up. There's tons of conspiracies about that.
So hi to Howie, and that's it, and that's Aaron, so that's great. And I believe somebody else. This is, I believe, our friend Mark.
Nice. Well,
Classic.
And then all right. Any closing remarks?
no, I'm pooped.
Okay, so next week we will finish this and keep talking more about what this army is going to do. So it's very graphic imagery, but again, at the end, we can always say that Christ is our King, and
Yeah.
the Lord reigns, and He will have a way for His people to be delivered. That's the whole book of Isaiah. His name is God is salvation. So
Hope. There's always hope. There's hope at the end of the labor.
they will. You're right. And when in that feeling at the end, probably only you can describe, Rachel, how does it feel
It's true.
after you do
It's true. It is the best. And then,
the hype that comes from all of that. Yeah.
nothing better. Except for a
All
good
right.
run does the same thing.
Well, yeah.
Thanks, guys.
I do believe, and my wife does agree with me, that gallstones is very close to.
It's equally, I'll tell you. Yeah, I had a kid.
Probably not as rewarding.
No, it's not rewarding at all.
More, I would say just as painful. Horrible.
Awesome.
Oh,
Well, thank you,
man.
everyone.
Guys.
Okay. Thanks, guys.